science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
For newcomers and old-timers alike, the Chloe Sanctuary hopes to give you insight into the health and happiness of your companion parrots. We hope to help you build happy homes using reliable and proven tools. The best homes are built on a rock-solid foundation. And the best foundation for a happy home is the bedrock of science. When we stand on the shoulders of giants, the scientists who have worked long and diligently to understand our companions, we can reach new heights of understanding. And understanding is the key to success.
I think treated, most of these birds have a good prognosis, and I would say
What does avian veterinary medicine have to tell us about our feathered friends? How can we prevent illness, see the signs of disease before it's too late, and care for our birds through ill health? What light does behavioral science shed on their nature, needs, and hopes? How can the tools of behavior shaping make our homes happier for us and our companions? How can we deal with biting, screaming, or other misbehavior? What is it like to live among parrots? Let them roam around about you and share a life with them. How much freedom do you give them? What happens if you form a bond of trust with them? Watch and see what understanding their true nature can do for you. Come with us on a journey as we do more than examine a parrot's world. We live in it. Make some popcorn and bring in a few wood blocks. Let everyone have something to chew and a comfortable place to perch. Cockatude is a presentation of the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.
I'd like to do a big shout out to those people who make this video cast possible. Cockatude would not be possible without our patrons. Peggy J, Jessica, Christopher, Dan H, Delphina L, Jody, Kaya E, Jennifer G, Deanne R, Sissy S, Dash R, Brenda B, Mercedes L, Svetla K, Lena P, Michael F, Janice F, John S, Lisa H, Mary M, Brad L, Deborah E, Tobias L, Vivian G, Lori B, Elaine W, Ruth C, Cindy M, Emma S, Denise S, Rachel S, and Laura C. And a great big welcome to our two newest supporters, Rachel S. and Laura C. Thank you to those of you who make one-time donations. Without these patrons giving us of their hard-earned cash, we couldn't continue doing this podcast. I'd like to urge you to please give us at least $1 per episode. We do 2 episodes a month. We'd like to do more, but in order to do that, we have to have the time. And right now I'm spending a lot of time trying to beat the bushes for the Chloe Sanctuary. It's not easy taking care of birds that are severely damaged, both emotionally and physically. So, please, I urge you, become one of our patrons. And I'm sure that Peaches would thank all of our patrons in person if she got the chance. We try to answer questions from our viewers as we can. If you are a patron, be sure to email us at patron@chloesanctuary.org, and your questions will take precedence. We always put our patrons first because they put us first. Hi, and welcome to Cockatude, Cockatoos with Attitude, episode 65. Get out of here! Traveling with your parrot, or cockatoo. Well, actually, Cockatoos are a type of parrot, aren't they? Yeah. Old world versus new world parrots, right? Yeah. Are you a new world parrot? There's a lot of things you need to think about before you go traveling with your bird. You know, we're not just talking about short outings, although this does apply somewhat to short outings. But we're talking about you're going to take your bird on a road trip. Maybe you're going to take your bird across the country on a flight. Or maybe you're just going to take a vacation and go off for a week and bring your bird along. Or maybe you're just going to go out for a day. But there's considerations for all those things, and we're going to try to cover those today. So the first thing is like, yes or no, is my bird a good candidate for this trip? It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Okay, Cause. It's all right, Bob. Nobody's going to get hurt. Let's not have any trouble here. It's okay. I know you're not used to having other birds around. There goes Pippa with her usual excursion across the room, flying into the door. That seems to be your thing. Pippa! What are you doing? Come here, Pip. Come on, Pip. Come on, Pippa. So there's a few things you got to do. Now, if you're going to be making a trip across state lines or internationally, one of the first things you're going to have to do is check the regulations for your destination. Any state lines you're crossing for bird transport, and you got to look it up by species. Some of these birds now are not allowed to cross state lines, so you need to check and see if at the time you're making the trip, your particular species is allowed to cross a state line. Make sure there's no quarantines that are in effect at that destination. So sometimes there's a health issue that's quarantining birds, and if you bring your bird in, you're going to have a problem. Come on, Pip. Bob. Switch. Come on, Pip. Up, Pip. Come on. Up. Up, Pip. Step up. There's a Pippa. Hi, Pippy girl. Let's put you up where you like to sit. Don't panic. I'm going to put my feet up here so you have more room to lay on. Okay? It's okay. None of these birds is going to get you. The cameras are part of it too. I know, Lucy, but I'm here to protect you. Okay? You're all right. You're all right. Now, there's some factors that's individual to your bird that you have to think about. Is your bird a screamer? If you're going to go aboard a plane and your bird tends to scream when it's upset, and by screaming, I mean that it squawks on a regular interval, like every 2 seconds at 125 decibels. That might not work too well on a plane. Now, there are ways around it. You can go to your vet and get something to sedate your bird, slow them down a little bit. Short-term things like Valium, Xanax. Either one of those two could get you through a flight. You got to test it out, though, and make sure that your bird is relaxed. So you're going to want to get enough of a dose where you can test it. We'll talk about this later, but you have a short window to get your bird vet checked and get a health certificate for your bird. So if you're going to be flying, so you're going to, or crossing state lines, so that'll be part of that. We'll discuss that a little bit later. And how does your bird adapt to new situations? If you've got a bird, for example, some Amazons don't adapt to new situations terribly well. So if you've got an Amazon that doesn't like new situations or crowds, then you need to consider that. Okay? It may be fine once you get off the plane, if you're going on a plane, but you'll need something to calm them in between. Another factor is how much time are they used to being out. So if you have a bird that's used to being out for 3 or 4 hours a day, and you're going to be taking them on a plane and keeping them in a small cage under the seat, or in a small cage in a vehicle, how much of that being trapped in a space are they going to be able to tolerate? Are they going to throw a tantrum? You have a bird that does throw tantrums. Do they have special needs? Do they have medications they have to have? Do they have to be kept at a certain temperature? And how are you going to transport that stuff? These are part of the yes or no, is my bird a candidate to go on this trip? Now, if there's any way you can do it, knowing that it's going to limit you too, not that you can't bring them into restaurants. You got a small cage, you have a towel you can throw over it. Most restaurants, if you got a bird that's not making a bunch of noise and it's in a small cage, you can get them in the door and nobody's going to say a word. So I know this, I've done it. Having that small cage, and if you take a towel and just cut a little hole out so that you can put the handle through, then you're just carrying this thing with the towel around it, like a baby towel. No one's going to say anything. But the second your bird starts going squawk, 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 you might find yourself out on the street. So you have to make sure, and one way to make sure of this is to practice at home. Now, another consideration is how well do you do with situations, okay? How do you handle them? So if you're in a situation where you're being confronted, let's say in an airport, somebody's giving you trouble, airport security, they're giving you a hassle because you have a bird, unlikely, but that's an example. How are you going to handle it? Are you one of those people who blows up? That won't be good. If you're one who slowly hammers at it, kind of like chiseling out the Grand Canyon, you just keep flowing until you get what you want, right? You dig deeper and deeper. So know yourself. How well are you going to handle this? If you're traveling around with the bird in your camper and you've got everything planned out, what's going to happen if for some reason the air conditioner stops working in the camper? Have you planned on how to deal with that? By planning out how you'll deal with different situations, this stops working or that stops working. You're going to have a fan along that's battery powered in case you're stuck somewhere it's hot and for some reason, you have engine trouble. That's another thing. You want to make sure you traveled before, so you always get the vehicle checked out before you go. But it's doubly important when you got the birds because they're more sensitive to things, right, Lucy? She goes, I'm just sensitive to these other birds in the room. They're driving me crazy. Now, will you have time to devote to your bird? When you get to your destination, are you going to be like, oh, we're off to this. Oh, we're going to go okay, for example, I live in the San Diego area. So you come to San Diego and your friends go, well, let's go to the wild animal park. They call it the safari park now, but to me, it's still the wild animal park. Okay. Well, you could say yes to that, but if you do, you can't take your bird. So now you're going somewhere where you can't take a bird. Where you could go down to, no, we're not eating the door. Get out of there. Come on. No. We're not eating the door. Over here. Come on. That's very nice. That's cool. It's kind of warm today, so that's actually helpful. That's actually helpful, Pippa. But you're stuck on my hand now. You can sit on my head if you want. No. What are you going to do? You can sit on my head. You want to sit on my head? No. You want to sit back here? All right. Stay away from the door. Bob, leave her alone. I know, Pippa. I know. So, there's Seaport Village. You could take your bird down to Seaport Village in San Diego. It's an open air area, a lot of stores. You have to watch out for cooking and stuff like that. If there's somebody cooking outside, are they using Teflon? So you want to stay away from that. But that's a place you can go. The Wild Animal Park is not. So you're not going to the safari park. Bob, don't eat the couch. Bob. So you're not going to the safari park if you're going to be spending time with your bird. So you got to plan out. You're not going to SeaWorld. It's a horrible place anyway, but you're not going to SeaWorld because you can't take your bird. So there's places you can go. There's lots of things you can do in San Diego. You can go to Balboa Park and hang out. There's a lot of places you can go. But, Bob, stop it. No, you're not going to get up there and start chewing on the couch. Come on, let's get down here. Play with the toy. Come on, sweetheart. He only does this kind of thing, attacking the couch, when I'm doing a video, so. It is ignorance of Bob's nature that turned Bobaloo into a living gargoyle. Bob's would-be parents made a hasty choice and found themselves in living hell, torn between guilt and frustration. I have seen the joy in Babalu's eyes now that he has a new life with me as his companion. To see Babalu love and trust again is worth the effort of a lifetime. But, once again, Bob is heading toward the pain of separation. My heart nearly broke the day I discovered that he was heading toward a cloacal prolapse, that his life will be cut short. To find love and acceptance and then have it stolen away from you by failing health is too much to bear. We can slow the progress of his failing health, but we can't stop it. He will need several surgeries, and eventually Babalu will die. We want to give him the best possible life until that day. His surgeries will become progressively more expensive over time. Won't you please lend Babalu a hand and donate to his medical fund today? Our donation button is on our webpage at www.chloesanctuary.org. Just be sure to say, "For Bob," in the notes when you donate. Right, Bob? Yeah, he doesn't do it any other time. They have separate behaviors for different situations. So anyway, will you have time to devote? Make your plans what you're going to do when you get there, and make sure your bird's going to be part of that. So it's going to get the time it needs. Is your bird accustomed to a routine? What happens when you change that routine? You can find that out by just trying it one day, right? And find out how well they deal with changes, because if they don't deal with change well, then it may be a tough first few days of the trip. After a few days, they'll usually kick in and handle it, but the first few days might be rough, especially if it's an old world parrot, such as a macaw or an Amazon that's not used to going on trips. Now, the other thing is, once you've decided, yes, my bird can go, and I know what the issues are, and I'm going to be able to handle it. The other thing that you need to do is 10 days, no more than 10 days before you go, you need to go and get a health check and a certification for your bird as far as its health. And you don't need to be by the door.
It's 2:30.
You don't need to be by that door. Over here. No. Peppa. Peppa. You don't need to go chewing on the door. Okay? Okay, Pep. All right, Peppa. You little tip. You little tip. Don't fall. Oh. Well, I didn't want you to fall. Now, what you're going to want to do once you've decided to take your bird is you want to acclimate the bird for at least a month before your trip to the fact that it's going to be going on a trip. So you're going to want to acclimate. Hey, no, she doesn't understand. No. What are you doing? Don't chase Lorelei. You okay, Lorelei? So you need to get your bird used to the things that it's going to see on the trip. So you need to set up the flying cage. If you're going on a plane, you have a special cage, and you have to check with the airline to see exactly what size will fit under the seat, because they're going to make you transport the bird under the seat. So you want to set up the flying cage and the travel cage close to their regular cage. You want them to get used to just seeing those cages. And then, without frightening them, you want to slowly get them into those cages. And you do that by using the treat thing, right? Whatever their special treat is that they only get when they're being trained, that's what you're going to use. And you'll start offering it closer and closer to the cage, and then giving it to them inside the cage. Some birds will step right in, and it'll be no problem. I mean, Bob's one of those, aren't you, Bob? Other birds, you're going to have to go slowly to get them into the cages and get them acclimated to them. you want to work up to the amount of time that you believe they're going to be in the cage. So if the flight's going to be for 2 hours, you want them to be used to being in the flight cage for about 3, because you got the travel time up and the travel time out. If you get them used to being in those cages for that amount of time, so that's one of the humps you have to get over, is them being used to those cages where you know they're not going to be freaking out. You don't want them freaking out. For more than just your own comfort, for theirs, right? And once you get them where they are comfortable in those cages, and while you're getting them used to being in those cages, you can carry the little cages along, sit them with you while you're doing the dishes, or sit them with you in that cage while you're in the living room watching television or a movie. This way, they get the idea that they go in the cage and not being abandoned. And you're right there, so they get comfortable. And it's important to train them all the way to the day that you're going to leave. You don't want to train them and then leave off for a week while you're making your preparations, and then all of a sudden you're shoving them back in the cage. Not a good idea. So you want to do it all the way up to that point. Now, something most people don't think about, you have a destination you're going to, and if let's say you're taking a long trip by car, you may have and you should do this, plan out, if you're going to stay in hotels, very good, Pippa, at least you didn't go for the door this time. If you're going to stay in hotels, you want to contact those hotels, and there's some specific things you want. When you're contacting them, you're going to want to make some specific inquiries, and we'll discuss that a little later. So wherever you're going to sit, go, Cocoa bird. Go. I love you, Coco. You want to come over here? Whoops. Hold on. You want to come over here? Come here. No, come on. Let go. I know. Now, the area that you're going to, all the places you're going to stop, this is going to seem like a lot of work, but you want the names of the agents. Hey, you. Bob? No. I know what you're into there. You want the name of an avian veterinarian in each area that you're going to stay. So, whatever the hotels you're going to stop at, those areas, you want an avian vet if you can possibly get one in the area. That way, if something happens, you know where to go. You're not grasping at straws trying to figure it out at the last minute. You also need to know where the pet stores in town are that you might be able to get supplies for your bird, should that be necessary. We'll talk more about hotels too, so.
Peaches is an amazing personality. Her daily maintenance requires dedication and mindfulness. She requires 2 forms of medicine, 7-course meals, and effort to entice her to eat. Extensive preening every day, special tools to trim nails, constant attention to her vocalizations, daily walks, and twice yearly checkups due to the possibility of impacted feather follicles and the nature of her spinal injuries. It seems a common misconception among the general public that parrots are like toys in a toy box. Nothing could be further from the truth. They are complex creatures. Recently, scientific studies have shown them to be at least as intelligent as chimpanzees. Every captive parrot needs special humans who will dedicate themselves to understanding them, those who know their species as it lives in the wild. special people that understand their social, mental, and physical needs. They need to be understood for what they are, and not as merely human companions, as circus performers to bring smiles. Peaches needs all this and more. She is our special girl. Will you help us care for Peaches? Please make a donation today at our website, chloesanctuary.org. That's spelled CHLOESANCTUARY.org. As a special thank you for your donation, we will joyfully send you a postcard with Peach's happy face.
And don't forget, when you see your vet, to get some calming medications, just in case, especially if you're flying. Because I know a lot of people don't like to give psychotherapeutic drugs to their birds, but would you rather have them freaking out and screaming and scared to death? Well, this is one way to be sure that you can calm them down. So, now before you get ready before you're going, you should make Coco. You are just so silly. We got you started, didn't we? We did get you started. Hey, stop it. Cause, would you leave her alone, please? She doesn't want to see your face. Just leave her alone. Come here. Bob, don't you even think about it. Over here. You're not going anywhere near that, so forget it. Just forget it. You should make several test runs before you take off on the real thing. If you're driving by car, you can take a 2-hour trip. Just head out somewhere. If you're heading to the beach or you're heading to a park, take a trip somewhere, a short trip during the day, and bring them back. You might start out with a half-hour trip, and then go to an hour trip, and then a 2-hour trip. Just get them used to the idea of being in trips. It's good. This way in the future, you'll find yourself taking your bird with you more frequently. It's not common, but you will occasionally run into a bird that doesn't want to have anything to do with being in a car. It does happen. And be prepared that could be the case. So this is another reason you want to do these test runs, okay? You certainly don't want to find this out 30 minutes in to your big trip that your bird isn't going to take it. We're not going to take it. Yeah. Yeah, there was a Pink Floyd song with that, right? We're not gonna take it, never did, never will. Yeah. Some birds, and this is one of them, suffer motion sickness. They can't use all of their perceptions when they're locked up in a vehicle. I found that usually if you can get the cage in the vehicle high enough where they can see the road, there's less chance of it. Now, I have motion sickness, okay, serious motion sickness myself. And I had a girlfriend when I was young. She had a friend who ran the Revolution. That thing you stand up against the wall and they spin and then you get stuck to the wall while it's spinning. I was on that for 20 minutes without a stop. I got off, my skin color was green and I couldn't throw up. And ever since then, if I don't take Dramamine or get a patch behind my ear before I even do something like a Ferris wheel, I'm gone. I get quite ill. So Coco does that too if she can't see out the window. I learned a long time ago, if I'm in a vehicle and I'm not driving, I have to be in the passenger seat and looking straight ahead. Coco doesn't always have to be looking straight ahead, but she has to keep looking up and seeing where she is. And then that quells her motion sickness quite a bit. But you don't want to find that out while you're on the trip, that your bird gets motion sick. So, and some of those calming drugs, like Valium or Xanax, can help so that they won't have that problem, or at least relieve the problem to some degree. You don't want your bird to be miserable. You practice going on the trip, and you do it, increasing it a little bit each time you take the bird out. Now, since you're going to do this anyway, if you haven't trained your bird, buy yourself an aviator harness. I don't like any of the other harnesses, so I'm mentioning a brand name here. They're in no way connected with us. We don't get any money from Aviator. I'm just letting you know, that's the only harness I will put on a bird, period. Comes with a DVD, explains how to put it on. It's easy once you get used to it. Approach it just like it says on the DVD. Don't just shove it like you're going to put it on your bird. That does work sometimes. Bob took to it right away. Coco took to it right away. But other birds were less likely to enjoy it. So to make it so that they don't mind the harness, one thing that I do is I make sure that once I put the harness on them while I'm training them, they go straight outside and play around for a while. Let them fly a little bit because they're on the harness. That gives them the idea that when the harness goes on, they're going to have fun. This way, you can take your bird in the future on sightseeing trips and nature outings, and you can feel confident. Always keep in mind, though, there are hawks. These guys will usually tell you the second they turn that eye up, you should have them close. Because they can see 1.5 miles up in the air a bird that's going to come to stoop down and attack them. We can't. Our vision is terrible compared to theirs. So, on a harness, you can fly them around, but always try to keep them safe when you're holding them. Don't let them sit on your shoulder outside, only because you don't want the hawk to take them, okay? They're fine on my shoulders. I know a lot of people are afraid of that. If you have any doubt the bird's going to bite your face, that's the only reason not to have a bird on your shoulder, okay? I don't care if they bite my face, so I guess that's part of the reason they don't. I don't know. You're not violent by nature. Now, you're going to need a larger cage when you're in a hotel or at your final destination, so I use iCrates. iCrate makes cages. Back on the floor. iCrate makes cages, they're big ones. They make 3 foot by 2 foot tall, 2.5 foot wide, but they fold up. So at your main destination, those would be great. Now, if you've got a bird that's smaller and it can fit its head between those bars, what are you doing down there? Not chewing on the door again? Oh. This one's going to be the bane of today. Excuse me. Be nice. You are not sitting at the door. No. Pippa. No. So those cages are great. You can get wire mesh grating there that's 1 inch square. You can get wire mesh grating at Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those places, and then you can cut it to fit the sides, and then you can get those big paper clips, and then you don't have to get the really big ones, you get the smaller ones, because that'll clip around the wires and hold them in place, and you can put that on the outside of the cage. So those can be flattened out too, so they don't take up much room. So if you're traveling by car, you're going to want a smaller cage that goes inside the car, and then a larger one for when you're in a hotel. Obviously, if you're traveling in a camper and you're not planning to go in a hotel, then you would want a spot for a larger cage inside your camper. If there's any way that you can put... Okay. Now, another quick thing about cages, know your bird, okay? If you put Bob in a cage that's made of plastic, you're going to have plastic parts because he's going to tear that cage apart. If you put Cecil in a wire cage and the wire's fairly thin wire, he's going to turn it into the most interesting, twisted little pieces you've ever seen. He'll bust that whole cage apart. So know your bird and know what kind of cage they can handle. Know if the bar is thick enough. For some birds, a 1/4-inch bar is not enough. You need something a little thicker. 3/8, not necessarily 3/8, but 5/16 or something a little bit thicker, or the bird will actually just twist the wire out of the way. Now, what do you need to take with you? What do you pack with you? You need food and water bowls to go on the cages. You need their regular food. You don't want to be changing their diet when you're on the trip. Okay? Because that could cause digestive problems, and then you got a bird that's got diarrhea. That's not good. What are you doing, Bob? Hey, Bob. Come on up, Bob. Good boy. Good boy. Little pest. I love you, but you're a pest. You're awfully cute, Lucy. But you're just about done with all this craziness, right? And if they don't have the regular food, it can be emotionally a problem for them. Plus, if you're letting them eat a lot of human food while they're out, restaurant food is not necessarily the best. A lot of salt and that kind of thing in it. You might end up changing their desire for food, and then you're going to have trouble feeding them their regular food at home. So plan on feeding them their regular diet. If you have a mash, or if you have any refrigerated food that they eat, you can use cool packs. And if you're traveling around in a car, you just, go buy ice. Put ice in a cooler, keep it cool. But plan for that. You need a first aid kit. We have a video that covers that. You need removable perches for the cages. Because if you got folding cages, you're going to have to take that perch out to fold it. You need a water bottle that your bird is trained to drink from. It can be one with a little spout, or it can be, Bob likes just regular water bottles. You just put it up to the bottom of his beak, and he actually taps the water bottle. He goes tap, 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 and then you pour a little water into his beak, and he tilts his head back, and then he goes tap, 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 like, give me more. You've got me trained, don't you, Bob? Hey, folks. And make sure you always use clean, filtered water. Just buy water when you're out. Some waters have different tastes, though. So if you're buying a bottle of Dasani versus a bottle of some off-brand, they may not taste the same. And to the birds, that can make a difference. If it doesn't taste the same, they may not want to drink it. Tap water is not good. Just remember, there's a lot of tap water that isn't safe for your bird to drink. We can tolerate it. They can't tolerate it so well. Pip, Pip, Pippa, are you okay over there? So plan to use bottled water and a particular brand. You can also bring along a small syringe, the kind that, just a feeding syringe that you can give them water with. So if they seem hesitant, you can just squirt the water into their beak. You're also going to want to bring your food in pre-measured Ziploc bags or containers so that you can just grab a bag. This is the morning bag. This is the evening bag, day one, whatever. Just grab a bag, dump it in the bowl. You've got everything covered. So there's no sorting it out. I don't buy a mix for the birds. I mix it every morning, and depending on the bird's needs. For example, Lucy, I found out she was swallowing pine nuts whole. So she doesn't get pine nuts anymore. She only gets the ones that don't have a shell. So Coco doesn't think too much of banana chips. She doesn't get any. She won't eat them. We tried for a year. But she will eat papaya. Banana chips are too hard. See, she can't swallow because she had her crop burned by the breeder. So that's what happens when you're so concerned about making money that you get a whole bunch of baby birds and then you shove the food with a tube down into their crop. There should be a law against that. Folks, we should have a law against that. You should have a little container with treats, just in case you need to divert their attention or reward them for particular behavior. You should bring along toys. Now, some can hang in the cages, some of the bigger ones to hang in the larger folding cages that you bring. In the smaller ones, for sure you want to bring foot toys. You need to bring paper towels for obvious reasons. You may also want to get wet wipes. Costco has them. They're like $20 for a huge mass of these things. But they're great to have along because you're going to end up having to wipe. They do have to poop. Everybody does. And by the way, just so people know, Bob's prolapse it's getting about ready for another surgery, so his tail end doesn't look too good. I clean it 2 or 3 times a day, and it's not looking that good right now. So he may need the major surgery sooner than we hoped, but he might do 1 or 2 more stitches. It's hard to say. It hasn't been that long since he had his last surgery, so his tail end does not look good right now, and I just cleaned it before I started this. Video, so again, you want to bring like a baby blanket with a hole cut out for the handle. That's important. And then you can have just a plain towel that you can throw out over the cage if the bird starts screaming. It gets loud. You're going to bring newspaper for the bottom of the cage. Again, we do not use corn cob or anything like that because it tends to develop bacteria, and that we don't want that. So newspaper, and just take the newspaper out when they go. Newspaper's cheap. Right, Bob? Right, Bob? Lorelai, what you doing? You and Coco. Hey, Peach, what are you doing over there? Yeah, there's a lot of material I'm trying to pass on, so I'm trying to get this all done in an hour isn't easy. Bring your harness, your wipes, spray bottle of water is must-have. You might get somewhere where it's hot, and being able to spray them down is good. Now, when you're taking them on a trip, if they're in a cage and something happens, you're in an accident, and something opens up, like the back door, they're not going to get out, okay? You can get lost. And they probably wouldn't fly away from an accident like that just because they were scared. Obviously, they wouldn't want to leave you, but... And I probably don't need to say that you never want to leave them unattended in a vehicle. You might have to do that on occasion if you're traveling by yourself with a bird. Now, if you have the cage secured, you want to make sure it's secured, so you may want to test drive without your bird to make sure it doesn't bounce around. Also, you want to prop the cage so it's level. Sometimes if you put it in a seat, it'll lean back or it'll lean forward. Your bird won't like it if they're sliding forward or sliding back in that cage. So try to make sure it's level it out. And the first time you take them out, don't put any toys in the cage. Just until they kind of get used to it. What our flock birds do when they're traveling is that they'll sit on a perch and they'll grab one of the bars on the cage. If they see I'm making a turn, that's funny. They see a turn coming up, and all of a sudden you see them grabbing the bars on the cage. You don't want to jostle them around in the cage if you can avoid it. So. You should have soft toys in the cage at first until that they're riding in the cage without a problem. Soft toys are your best bet. And later on you can move over to harder toys. I'd still stay away from toys that have sharp edges, though. Make sure the food and water cups are secure. Don't put too much water and food in there, only about halfway, because you come to a sudden stop, you don't want to be shooting water everywhere. Now, when you're stopping for gas, you want to make sure the windows are rolled up. You want to turn off the air conditioner, and you want to pump your gasoline quickly. You want to, in other words, you're trying to keep the gas fumes from getting to your bird, so you want to get in and out of the gas stations quickly. When you're traveling, too, one bird to a cage. What are you doing down there? No. Baba Lou, get up. Come on. I know what you're doing, and I'll have to tickle you. You want to get tickled? It should always be one bird to a cage, even in your home, but when you're traveling and things are out of sorts because they're not the usual routine, you certainly don't want to have two birds in a cage, so... Now, as far as with hotels, when you contact them, you're going to ask them to do some things. Say that you want in the room, you don't want them to use any deodorizers or any scents in the room. Okay? You want to contact the housekeeping manager and find out what they use to clean the rooms, and then specifically tell them not to use any scents or anything that are going to be a problem for your bird, and to leave the windows open before you get there. You want the place to air out. What you doing, sweetheart? What you doing? You also need to tell housekeeping that you don't want any sprays used in the room, because sprays are really bad for these guys. The propellant and all that's bad for their lungs. So no sprays, no carpet fresh on the carpet. You want the room aired out before you get there. Now you can also hang up a sign on the door with your specific requests. The other thing too is you should ask people in charge of housekeeping at each of these locations if their employees speak English. And if they don't, then you need to find out what language they do speak so you can make up your cards to go on the door in the proper language. Doesn't do much good to put a note on the door that people can't read. If you're having a problem with housekeeping and they don't seem to get what you want, then simply say you don't want any services. Just tell them, don't mess with the room until I leave. Now, some of this applies to a long stay in a hotel, and some of it applies to just overnight. So, now another thing is that you want to make sure you request a non-smoking room. Nicotine is a poison, and it's something that they can't tolerate. You have the larger cage that would be in your vehicle if you're driving in an automobile, and another larger cage if you're staying in a hotel. At the bare minimum with hotels, by the way, you need to confirm that all the hotels you have planned on your trip accept birds. That's critical. That's the first thing. And then you go into the housekeeping with them and that kind of thing. So, now what if you're flying? Well, when you're flying, you're normally allowed 2 pieces of carry-on luggage. Bear in mind that you know what happened with the airlines recently and the doctor who was escorted off the plane. That's because the airlines can change their requirements. They can say, you're allowed 2 carry-ons. Oh, no, we changed it on this flight. You're only allowed 1. So keep in mind that could happen to you. So you have all this stuff for your bird in a carry-on. That may end up going in the baggage area. But the most important things would be in the one carry-on that has water and food for them and medicine if you need to calm them. And of course the blanket to cover the cage if necessary. Now with airport security, your bird has to be in the carrier with no paper, no water, until you're ready to board the plane. So after you get through the airport security, then you can find yourself a handicapped bathroom, or you can go in and line it with paper towels. And the reason you want to use paper towels, you're not going to get all that newsprint on your bird's feathers, because normally they have that underneath the grate, right? So paper towels will keep them from getting dirty from the newsprint. And you want to use your own paper towels, not something that's from the bathroom. Not only is there a lot of stuff in the air in bathrooms that can get on the paper towels, which isn't good for your bird, but you know where your paper towels came from. So pack your own paper towels. That's important. At this point, you can come out of the bathroom, buy yourself some bottled water for the bird, and give your bird a drink before you take your flight. Make sure that the medicine needed to calm your bird or any other medicine for your bird is available on the flight. Make sure you have your health certification. There are a few airlines that allow birds. The best one I know is Delta, though. They seem to work a little extra to get your bird. They seem to do a little more for your birds. Be aware they're going to charge you both ways if you bring a bird. I think it's $60, but you can check on Delta's website. There are other airlines as well, so you can check into that if you want to call around. You know that your bird's going to be under your seat in a special cage that fits under there. They do require that the cage that you have they must be ventilated on at least 2 sides. Cage dimensions, they're different for different types of planes that you might be flying in, so you need to check that. And another important thing is to try to get a flight with no changeovers. So you can just hop on one plane and get there. It's not always possible, but you want to shoot for that if possible. When you're going by plane somewhere, you want to make sure you're reserved far in advance. You definitely don't want these guys traveling as baggage in the baggage compartment. You want them in the cabin, so they're going to be considered part of your luggage. But they'll also have to be, you have to pay extra to bring them on. You want to confirm, too, that for this particular flight that you're on, or the flight there and back, that 2 carry-ons are going to be allowed. Because you've got the one that's your bird, and the other that's the bag that has the stuff for the bird. Always remember that airlines can change their requirements on the fly. Yes, I meant that as a pun. Just a reminder, most airlines require a certification saying that your bird is healthy. And if you're going to do any kind of international, that gets a little more complicated. I'll put a link to the appropriate website that explains what you have to do for international flights, but international flights may require a quarantine, so you have to be careful there. Plan that all into what you're doing. Sorry, Peach. You have to preen this poor bird because she can't preen herself, so can you, baby? Now, while your bird's flying on the plane, you want to cover the cage under the seat so that they're not being stressed as much. And that carrier, you want to have it tagged, okay? Your flight number, your destination, your personal contact information. Just in case something happens, you want to be able to get your bird back if something goes wrong. Not that many planes have problems in the air, but it can happen, so. All right, when you're traveling by car, you want to, there's a lot of little things to consider, but like the gas stations, in and out quickly. But another thing is that you want to put them on the rear seat, somewhere where you don't have airbags. If you have any other kinds of pets you're bringing with you, you want to make sure they have no access to your bird. They can't get to your bird at all. That's important. No matter how much you trust them, you want to make sure they can't get to your bird. If you have children with you, make sure they know that they are not allowed to touch or bother the birds during the trip. This is to protect the bird, but also to protect the children. Because they start poking at the bird when the bird is stressed, who knows what the bird will do. And whatever it does, it has a right to do in such a stressful situation. So it would be the children's fault, not the bird. Right? Right, Coco says, that's right, Dad. That's right. You want to secure the cage using clean ropes, or you can use seat belts. But keep in mind, Bob's a good chewer of seat belts. Coco's a good chewer of seat belts. So if you are going to use the seat belt to lock it in, that's fine. But you'll want to put something around the seat belt to protect it. So you can just take a cloth, or so you can just take a towel and wrap it around. Make sure they're secured so that cage doesn't move, though. Now, if you want, you can put a pillow in front of the cage in case there is an accident. The bird will, and things move forward, it'll hit that pillow to get, soften the blow. You can also cover the cage if you need to, but that would only be if your bird's getting stressed. You don't want to do it because your bird's making noise. If your bird is squawking, not because it's upset, but just because it's being a bird, you don't want to cover the cage. So if you can't take that kind of noise, then perhaps it's not the right thing to take your bird with you. Now, if the bird is obviously upset, then you might want to cover the cage. Now, you're staying with friends, let's say. You're not at a hotel now, you're staying with friends. So there's certain questions you're going to ask your friends before you actually go there. Do they have any allergies? The dust that comes off these guys is not just a fine little powder. It's actually a hook. It's what they use to hook these feathers together. If you've ever noticed, feathers become unzipped, and when you go like that, they zip back up. Well, how do they do that? Because they have little hooks. Bob, what are you doing up there? Babaloo. It's because they have little hooks, okay? So the dust that these birds put off, if you've got somebody who tends to be allergic to things, this could be a problem. So if they have an aversion to noise, I've got a couple of friends. I have one friend who absolutely can't stand noise, okay? Doesn't even like music. Babaloo, no. Bob, come here. Bob, come on, up, up. Bob, up, up. Come on. Good boy. Come here. Come on, cutie. Come on, beautiful. Come on, sweetie. Come on, Bob. So, if they're afraid of birds, make sure they realize you're bringing birds, you're going to have them out of the cage, okay? They're not always going to be in their cage. If they're afraid of birds, if they have any hesitation, well, I'm kind of afraid of the beak, you may not want to go with your bird. Or you may just decide to go somewhere else. They're not going to be able to cook with Teflon while you're there. They're not going to be able to use the self-cleaning feature of their oven. If they clean their oven, they're going to have to clean it with elbow grease, okay? They're not going to be able to use ammonia cleaners or, any caustic cleaners, chlorine or anything like that while you're there. Once you get there, you need to find a safe place for your bird's cage, probably in the room you're going to be in, right? And bring that cage out when you're in the living room with the other birds, and you're going to have to inspect their kitchen setup, and if they've got non-stick, and there's the thing too, when we're talking about their cooking ware, if it's non-stick, it's Teflon. I don't care what it's called. They can call it Silverstone, or they can call it whatever, but it's Teflon that makes it non-stick. I used to joke about it. This is my joke. The reason they call it non-stick cookware is because the coating comes off when you cook with it, and it ends up in your food. That's what those little black dots are in your food. Anyway, you got to be sure you spend plenty of time with your bird while you're there. Give them the time that you allocated to them. Don't change your mind and go, oh, well, we're going to go ahead and go to the safari park, and then you're gone all day when they're used to seeing you for 3 hours during the day, if you're an always home person, or when you're breaking their routine terribly, it's not a good thing. So make sure the plans you made, make sure your bird gets the time it needs that they get stuck to. You want to try to stick to as close to their feeding and sleeping schedule as you can. I don't agree with the practice of wing clipping, so I wouldn't say to wing clip your bird before you go. If you're in a home where the front door is right in the living room and can be opened at any time, then you're going to want to have your bird in a harness with you while it's in the living room with you. Okay? So if your bird needs to be harnessed at certain times, then harness them. That's your best bet. If they're going to be coming out, you want to make sure that the windows and doors in the place are secure. You're not going to just come open all of a sudden. The front door isn't going to come open all of a sudden. So you want to make sure that everyone knows the toilet lids are to be kept down, and that the birds are not to be anywhere where there's a hot burner or anything where they could get hurt, because they have a way of getting into things, don't you, Bob? He's been trying to get to my notes all day, just pretending to have... See, he's even taking one step at a time going that way. You're not going to get my notes. And now, how do I know that's what he's trying to do? Because he likes to stay over here. He tends to just like to stay up, but he knows there's something over here he can get, so that's what he's heading for. Right, Bob? And it's important that everyone in the home knows where the bird is at all times so that there's no accidents. Okay, guys. Oh, we got to do a goodbye. Bob, you want to say goodbye to the...
It's 3:30.
Bob, you want to say goodbye to the people? Bob, say goodbye to the people. Babaloo! Goodbye! We'll see you next time. We welcome your feedback on our videos. We look forward to your insights, tips, questions, stories, and pictures. You can email us at cockatude@chloesanctuary.org, reach us on Twitter @Chloe Sanctuary, and join with us on our Facebook Chloe Sanctuary page.
much as science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.